Well, hello everybody, Spencer here, also known as Lego Dude 11. In today's video, this is a brand new review for you out on the channel, and today I'm going to be discussing the brand new season of Stranger Things 4 that just concluded last week with Volume 2. So without further ado, let's discuss. Alright, so first and foremost, I do have my list of notes here that I did take down on the full season here. Today's video is the full season. If you're wondering why I haven't made a video about this season yet, it's because I wanted to wait until Volume 2 was out so I could watch that and then talk about the entire thing, all 9 episodes, with Volume 1 and 2 in one video. I was like, how long is this going to be? Is this going to be like an hour-long review? And I'm like, I don't care if it is, but it probably shouldn't be. I did take down notes on the season, and before I get to what I actually wrote down here, I have to say that this is it's officially, this is the best season of Stranger Things, right off the bat. I don't want to be like one of those guys that's just like, after I come out of a Marvel movie, like, oh, that was the best, that was the best, that was the best, which I kind of do sometimes, which I try to then, like, think about the movie and stuff. But in this case, when you analyze Stranger Things deep to its core, there hasn't been, I mean, Season 1 was just that magical, fresh, new concept that people were amazed by. But Season 3 was something, totally awe-inspiring. Like, to me, when I watched Season 3, there's something great about it in its own right, but this one, just the writing and everything, and I'll get to this later, just the writing and everything is astonishing on a high bar. So let me kick off things with the score and the soundtrack, like I always do. Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein composed the soundtrack for this show since the beginning, and I'm a fan of this soundtrack. Honestly, it's very because the show takes place in the '80s. They kind of like use these motifs, or I guess motifs is the right word, styles as with a synthesizer, and it's really well done. I really like what they do with these like 80s vibes. Also, the main theme song, some of the things they did with this, they took, also there's things like Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, just launched top of the charts, fantastic song. Pass the Dutchie inclusion in there, I didn't even know the song, but it's a bop. And also there's a song at the end of the 3rd episode called, it's not really a song, it's more like an instrumental called There's a Storm Coming. But because of what's going on in the show, they say there's a storm coming, so they play the song. And I guess it was also used in Riverdale, which is just a show that went off the rails. But anyway, I digress. They used it in that, and I guess it's like kind of like a dead, like a zombie, like used in like zombie moments, like apocalypses and stuff. So I have listened to that track nonstop since that episode came out, or since I saw that episode, and it's just this soundtrack this season has been killer. As well as like some of the things like when the Vecna theme to number 1 to at the end the remix, or like the remake of at the end of the epic finale when they play the Stranger Things theme like redone. It's epic, and the music crescendos. It is beyond phenomenal, and I cannot stop talking about it. I can't stop talking about this season. So let's continue onwards forwards to the characters of this season. And we have, recurring characters and new characters new additional characters added to this season. And one of the things I feel like, I don't know, looking back at Season 3, there's no really issues with Season 3, maybe. I mean, there might be some issues with Season 3, but I feel like what they did with Season 3 was kind of like continuing the story from the first 2 seasons, which I know that sounds kind of weird, but like no additional characters in that season. They just kind of like continued, open the door, set the doorway for, no pun intended, with what they had going in Season 3, like with their teenage years. This one, they tried to introduce new characters, which was a fun, I think a great, because they lost a bunch, some of their cast in the previous seasons, I feel like this was a great way to just open, to basically branch off into different directions here. And like when the season starts off with Jonathan and Argyle. This was a character that could have been stupid, absolutely stupid. But by the end of I think volume 1, you just fall in love. I mean, by the end, like throughout the first episodes, you just fall in love with Argyle, and this is why I love this show, because you just immediately fall in love with these characters. Also, Eddie, he could have been ridiculously stupid. I think some people thought he was, and just by the end, he gets redeemed. There's so many arcs here. It's like some of these Disney Plus shows that don't feel like characters get redeemed, but in this show, there's an arc for every one of these characters that just makes it so worthwhile in the end, and I love it. All 4 characters, or like the main cast, Mike, Will, Dustin, Lucas, and Eleven, all fantastic. All fantastic. I can't stop saying good things about these actors. I really want to see, I forget the name, Caleb McLaughlin and as Miles Morales in a live-action Spider-Man. That would be awesome. But I'm here to talk about Stranger Things, not that. But I love these characters coming back. Hopper. I think this is one of the things I want to mention, the different storylines. But because he was in the Russian area, or Alaska, I guess, Soviet Union, it felt like he was kind of distant from all the other characters, but I feel like once we get into Volume 2, he has some screen time. I mean, he has screen time all throughout, but I feel like some people were complaining about that. I didn't really listen to many people's thoughts on it, but that's alright. There's Billy gets some returning screen time. Max just shines this season. Max just shines this season. We have the new villain, Vecna. Well, I also wrote that down later, Vecna. By the way, there's one Easter egg that I want to mention. This isn't going to take a lot of time, but in episode 2 of this season, there was a very subtle reference, very subtle. You may have missed it. And man, I can't believe this was that long ago. I looked this up. It just feels like yesterday. I mean, my God. Anyway, there was a Rick and Morty reference, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's so subtle. But this, when they're looking up who Reefer Rick is, when they're trying to find Eddie, and they have like a list of names of Rick on the computer. One of them that pops up is Rick Sanchez. I just love that because I heard someone on Instagram say, "Oh, there's a Rick and Morty reference." I'm like, "What? Rick and Morty?" And even though it's so subtle, it has nothing. It's not like they mention Rick and Morty. It's just funny, nice addition to have that in a show two shows that I like. Hey, why not? So anyway, I wanted to mention that. So I kind of slided over the different storyline aspects. So one of the things this season does kind of well, in my opinion, is take these different storylines and kind of connect them all into one. And some people get annoyed, or have gotten annoyed by this. And one argument I'll make is that if you want to see all these characters together again, just watch the other seasons. Just watch the other seasons. That's all you have to do. This season was all about the direction of how they were going to get in the end, like how they were going to rescue Hopper. They had that storyline. How now there is one part that I will kind of say is kind of silly, but it makes for a good show. Like when they went to find Susie and do that whole thing, that was a little bit silly, but it still made for a good sequence in the show, in that episode. But when they did things like that, when they were trying to get Eleven, when Max had her own storyline, and I forget the other one, the Jonathan thing or the 11 thing, it all worked. I loved all these storylines, and then they were all going into one thing at the end here in the final battle, and it just made for a nice story. Even though the episodes are long, I get invested in this show. It's one of those things where either people are going to be really annoyed, which some people are. I did see a number of people annoyed by, oh man, these are hours, an hour each, and then the last one's 2 hours. But anyway, the runtime is sort of irrelevant. I just love that these different storylines, or these episodes, have a story worth telling. Like, have something meaningful to it. As opposed to a Disney Plus show where I'm going to, like, rant. Like, I don't rant much about the Disney Plus shows, but, like, Obi-Wan, that had a very mediocre plot. Like, I wanted more from that. I'm watching Stranger Things going, how is Obi-Wan not as good as this? Like, I'm sitting here going, how with the runtime is completely irrelevant, but I'm going, how can they write this so much better than what Star Wars could? Lucasfilm, Disney, what the heck? I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, I'm just kind of dreading over that. But another thing about the different storylines, I feel like some people, I heard one guy complaining about this, but I feel like it was really interesting, is that the 11 story, like when it starts out in 11, they're living in the other town, I forget what it's called, but they move away from Hawkins in the last season and they're living in this other town, and she's getting bullied, right? And some people were like, oh, why is she getting bullied? She's, you know, she shouldn't be bullied, she's this great character, whatever. It was really traumatic for her backstory, and when you just go, it's so deep because when you see how when she grew up and this whole thing, like, you don't know what happened, because by the end of Volume 1, you learn who Vecna is. Like, oh my god, that's what happened. You think 11 did it, she had all this trauma, and then she just assaults the bully, with a roller skate. It's a brutal scene. I mean, I'm all for, like, horror, but it's brutal. She gets her nose cracked. I mean, she could have had a serious concussion. And this is so deep. And she goes, now, there are some logic problems, because she goes to jail, and then the guy, Jason, Jason is all out. Oh, my God. But Jason he beats up some kids, and he gets nothing. But anyway, some weird logic problems, maybe, but I'm not focusing on that. I'm focusing on 11 here. It's just awful. And it just goes all over the place, and I love where the turn goes. So yeah, I like this. I love the events, the sequences, and the different storylines that happened. So yeah. By the way, so I mentioned the whole Vecna thing. So let me go into that. Vecna, the new villain Vecna, is incredible. Like I said, this is the best season by far. What I loved is I love the Demogorgons. I love that they have Demogorgons inclusion in this season, that they had them in this season. I think that worked well for the Russians, having growing the Demogorgons, and because I'm a fan. Like, if they didn't have them, okay, that's fine. But the fact that the, like, Mind Flayer was gone was good. And then they had this new villain, but they had the Demogorgons kind of returning in some sequences, which was really nice. And then they had, so their new villain, Vecna, which is also a D&D character, bringing back the D&D stuff, which is really great. And then, oh, by the way, Steve and Robin inclusion together, and Nancy is back. That was, I love them coming back and reprising their roles. Good characters, great acting, splendid. But yeah, Vecna is just creepy, and the Victor Creel stuff. He's Freddy Krueger, actually. He plays Freddy Krueger, and this was such an interesting storyline to see all the eyes popping out. It was creepy the way that he murders these children, these teens. Man, it's creepy stuff that we haven't seen before in the show, and I loved it. You know, I'm getting into this new horror stuff, and I'm like, they're nailing it with the horror stuff. I cannot wait. I love this season. I cannot wait for the next season. But this is the horror stuff that we need. And I mean, season 1 was pretty scary for some people, but then it just kind of went whoo, and then it went back. It's going back up, and I love it. But yeah, the twist, like, once you get into episode 7 with the Vecna twist, with the reveals of who he is, he's Victor Creel's son, and I'm like, oh my god. I thought about it, and I'm like, he might be the son, and then when it is, I'm like, yeah. And then you see him, like, the origin of how he gets into the portal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is epic. And that twist was bananas. And so yeah, that was awesome. And when they're in the Upside Down, I feel like the effects in this season are much bigger than ever. Like, the budget for this show, or this season, is insane. Like the budget that they took, like I said, how did they not learn from Obi-Wan? Like not learn. How did Obi-Wan? How did Disney not see this and go, oh, we should like make our shows better than this. Try at least. Do or do not. There is no try. They did. They tried too hard. I'm sorry. Am I getting upset about this? I feel like I am. Anyway, but the effects are insane. And Vecna is no exception. I mean, all the vines, all the tentacles, the lightning effects, and the red upside down world. It's just, it's insane. Am I like repeating myself? It's insane. It's incredible. Wow, incredible. I'm Mr. Incredible. Okay, and just I loved it. I loved it. Because these episodes are so long, this is one I would love to rewatch, but it's just certain moments, certain clips, certain sequences are just amazing. And with that said, let me get to Volume 2 and mention what I thought about that. So now I'm going to mention what I thought of Volume 2, and there are 2 episodes that came out for Volume 2, and the first one was an hour and a half, and the second one was 2.5 hours. And so that's a total of 4 hours. It's almost longer than the entire Obi-Wan season, which it blows my mind. It's just, wow, I mean, oh my god. Out of proportion, out of the water, I can't even believe it. But, I just want to mention that everything I wrote down here, this Volume 2, I mean, if you couldn't get enough of Volume 1, like, if you were beyond amazed, if there were some emotional moments, Volume 2 is even more emotional. There's just so much, it's just a high bar. The action, the emotions, and the potential for more for what's to come. It's amazing. It's bananas. And I was discussing with my friend the day. So I got back here I was on camp last week. So this video is being uploaded on the 8th. I'm recording this like a couple of days earlier, and so I got back from a camp with my friends last week. July 1st, I got back on Friday, and it was the day it came out, and we're going to go home, we're going to watch it. Not me and my friends, but my friend was like, I'm going to go home and watch it with my dad. He did that, he finished it that night, then the next day, I'm like, I just watched the episode 8. I did. And then I was going to finish the finale that night, and he's like, dude, I cried 3 times. He told me he cried 3 times, and then I cried too. Because there's gonna be multiple spoilers here if I haven't like spoiled stuff for you already, guys. But rescuing Hopper, that was so emotional in Volume 1. That was a little bit emotional. They got Hopper back. By the way, forgot to mention when they tried to rescue, when Hopper and like Yuri, the whole Yuri guy, that was hilarious. I love Yuri, and Murray's back, and Joyce. I forgot to mention Joyce. They're all great. Yuri is a hilarious character, and when you see Hopper try to run away, and you see with the Jif jar, just scooping it up, and I'm like, no, not Jif! But, yeah, but that was hilarious. But, yeah, they get Hopper back, and the whole fight scene, like when he's talking to Antonio about Elle, that was pretty emotional as well, but that was all in Volume 1. And then Volume 2, and you see Eddie gets redeemed. He has a little emotional arc there. I cried at that. It's great. It's a great scene. The reason I say redeemed is because he had this whole throughout the season, he just mentions to Dustin, stay who you are, never stop, never change, and I love that. I love that as a point, just about people in life, like never change who you are. Even if you end up changing who you are at some point, be who you are in that moment. Never stop. It's just a great thing to remember. I love that. I love Eddie as a character. Argyle as well. There's no emotional stuff with Argyle, but Argyle as a character, I love him. The Max, I cried at that. That's so emotional. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, there might be some spoilers and stuff. So, Max gets caught by Vecna, and Elle is piggybacking in her mind, and the fight sequence between Elle and Vecna, is amazing, is just something to behold, because when she's piggybacking in her mind, and then you see Max start to get cursed, or she's already cursed, but I guess like destroyed, broken, her bones broken, and 11 just all out, just throws him across the room, Vecna across the room, and it's amazing. I love the fight. And then she goes into the red upside down world and she gets like all the tentacles wrapped around her, and 11 gets the tentacles, she gets choked. And Mike just gives this very emotional speech and says, I love you. I totally called it. I said, he's going to say I love you. He does. She gets like this moment, this light bulb moment to stop Vecna, save Max, and then Max wakes up, but her eyes, she can't see anything, and she just fades away. She just dies for a moment. And 11 saves her with her power, and I cried in this moment, man. It was so emotional. I cried then, I cried with Eddie, and Dustin's speech to Eddie's uncle, so emotional, I cried then. There was something else. Oh, I cried when, so in episode 8, when Will is talking to Mike and says, you're the heart, that was very emotional. I got upset then. And then in the finale, when Will's talking to his brother Jonathan, oh my god, I have to, after I mention this, I had another thought about this season. So much stuff. But the Will and Jonathan are talking to each other. He says, I'm always here for you. I'll be here. I'm your brother. And I love you. That was so heartfelt. That was very emotional then. And when they get to the when they're trying to get the tub for 11, and they see the other Surfer Boy pizza dude, and our guy on him are interacting. That was by far another one of my favorite moments of the finale. Like, dude, my dude. And then they give him some of that weed, some of the drug. But that was hilarious, and there's so much emotional stuff there. Some great moments in the finale. The action is incredible. Such a high bar. I loved when they went all in, did the different phases, and then they just flambéed the fire, the explosions, the flamethrower. They shot. Nancy was so good with that shotgun. She just blasted him, and that was a great moment. I love that sequence when running up that hill played, and you see Hopper just slashing the Demogorgon with the sword, going back and forth. Great moments. Even when they have the montage of they're trying to get the bathtub ready, and Argyle's making that pizza, that was hysterical. But yeah, at the end there, when you see Vecna laying there, I'm like, ooh, they got him, but then he goes away. That was a nice sneak. And then everything, what Nancy saw in the first episode of Volume 2, and Vecna says, tell 11, and you see all these cracks open up at the end there with the 4 pathways leading up to 1. That's what Nancy saw, and it all happened. And now the Upside Down is getting into our world. This is so epic. This is going to be a banger season. Now, I don't know what Season 5 is going to entail, but the way they cliffhang this, oh man, it was epic. And if they don't have what they had this season, next season, it's going to be a huge disappointment. But I'm sure that they'll knock it out of the park, because Season 3 was really good. And then this one was by far the high exception. I mean, what's the peak of Stranger Things is, and I loved it. I mean, this finale, 2.5 hours, the runtime is irrelevant, but it was banger, amazing, anything, all the adjectives, all the amazing adjectives, just good. And yeah, this is what I love about this show, the writing. Now again, Season 2 wasn't the greatest, but looking back, it's like, it was a good time, right? Like, Season 1, then 2, okay, and then 3, and like, wow, like, this is something, a binge-worthy, not even a binge-worthy, like, you just watch it and you go, oh my god, I gotta watch more. I heard that Season 5, like, just before recording this video, I heard that Season 5 was going to have action right off the bat in Episode 1. It's going to be shorter than Season 4, and it's going to have like Return of the King's, a 2+ hour finale with Return of the King style ending, and a bunch of end credit scenes. So I'm excited to see this. I guess they're going to start production early August, so next month here, and I cannot wait for this. This is one of my favorite shows. By the way, I don't know where this is ranked on my favorite shows. It's not my top 3 favorite shows of all time, but it's probably my top 5. Because Doctor Who, I love Doctor Who, Big Bang Theory, and Rick and Morty. Those are my top 3 favorite shows of all time. Just because I love them. But this one's probably in my top 5 shows of all time now with this season. So yeah. Anyway, I would rank this. I mean, if I don't give this season a 10 out of 10, I don't know what I'm doing something wrong. I mean, to me, this season deserves a 10 out of 10. Like, why not? But I feel like if I just do that, I'm just being too biased. But I would have to sit down for even longer and just decide, like, wait, is there something wrong? But I don't know. So my rating right now is 10 out of 10. But if I think about it later, and it might change, fluctuate in the future. So yeah, my thoughts on season 5. Again, I don't like to think about what's gonna happen. I'm just really excited for. I'm excited to see the cracks. No, that's not right. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the cracks and the Upside Down coming into our world. It's something I heard someone mention that could happen, and then that actually happening is really interesting. One thing I'll mention right here is I'm interested to see. I mentioned the whole Susie thing. I loved Susie. I hope she comes back to help in season 5, because if not, that's a huge bummer. Huge bummer. And the only reason I say this is because they kind of introduced her as this character to help them out. And if all she does is just help them out to code or help them out to find coordinates, that's a huge bummer. Because I kind of wish that she helped more like Erica does. Because I don't really find Erica all that interesting, but I find Susie more interesting than her. But anyway, if in season 5 the adults help out more, if the adults are like, oh crap, like the kids have been telling the truth this whole time, and then they help out more in season 5 with the big fight, I don't know, that would be quite interesting. But let me know what you think. Will Susie appear more? Will the adults help out? And what do you think? What are you expecting in season 5? What did you like about season 4? Did you like it as much as I did? Did you think that this was just all epic, or did you think that it was too long, too much stuff going on? Like, not really what you wanted. I mean, again, it's their stories, what they wanted to tell. But what did you like or dislike about this season? What did you think of this review? Let me know what you thought about my thoughts. What did you think about my thoughts, guys? Anyway, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe down below, follow me at Boba Fett Jedi Master. Link on Instagram. Link is down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me. And as always, don't forget to keep calm and play let go. Bye, everyone. Peace out.